Hey everybody, I'm Ravenbane, and today we're going to do another fun little lore video that hopefully helps people piece together even more of the lore of the game Hollow Knight. This one I feel like doesn't have as much content as some of the other videos can, but hopefully in the upcoming Silksong we will get a bit more information on it and everything pertaining to it. I felt that since Silksong is hopefully coming soonish, I should cover this topic so that everyone can know as much as possible about it. Since I've already covered the Weavers, today we will be covering the Nest, Herrah, and everything about it, and maybe even touch on Hornet a slight bit. Alright, so now that you know the topic, let's get started on the Nest. If you played Hollow Knight, which I'm going to assume you did, you'll find an incredibly creepy biome late game, or a bit early if you fought the Mantis Lords early. This biome is filled with creepy spiders, no lighting, and can seriously creep you out. You trek through the biome with a stop for Nosk, and you get to the northern part of the biome where all the real content is. And here you'll find a few really peculiar areas which we will discuss now and we discussed in the Weaver vid. Here you'll find tons of corpses of normal bugs of Hallownest killed by many different creatures across the nest. And all of this gives you some really serious lore questions that you truly want to be solved. And like many other Hollow Knight lore topics, it goes completely uncovered on YouTube. This gets a bit worse. Your curiosity gets the best of you when you see the distant villagers for the 5 seconds. And, well, sorry folks, I don't really have an answer for them, but I do have chunks of good lore in the rest of the nest. Okay. The beings of the nest are arachnids, or spider-like creatures. They are apparently one of the most intelligent bug species across the lands of Hallownest, and likely were sentient and living in a civilization long before the Pale King took over the lands that became his kingdom of Hallownest. This civilization, similar to the Pale King's rule, was ruled by a king of nobility, but also ruled by a queen who was not of an honored caste. It also appeared they had a very sophisticated class system within the civilization, and that all the bugs were helpful in everyday life. The bugs who were higher up in the classes were granted masks to hide the brutish form beneath, and were given great assignments such as serving the queen. The creatures of the nest built up a settlement with very fancy infrastructure in the area that is now the distant village. The creatures then resided here and raised more spiders for their cause, and this was helped along by many of the midwives which existed in the area, one of which remained and gives us tiny bits of information on the nest and on the distant village. This infrastructure suited the tribe that settled it very well and was quite cutting edge for the time. The nest bugs built suspended hanging cocoons from spider silk which they created. These buildings were very large and open and were great for holding many, many spiders, and also the corpses of enemy bugs. The nest could have been connected to the mask maker, as there are many examples of masks throughout the ranks of the nest, none more apparent than stalking devouts, close servants of Herrah, who open up their masks to attack the player character, and the mask maker is located quite near to the distant village. And the mask maker does seem to be connected to some ancient civilizations, but he's just cryptic, so let's move on. These bugs, similar to many of the other indigenous bugs living across the lands, did not support the Pale King, and they actively opposed him. But these bugs were also definitely not into treaties with other tribes, and also were the enemy of certain other species that also opposed the Pale King. This is not 100% true, as the bugs of the nest did accept the Weavers and let them integrate into their civilization. The Weavers and the nest assimilated and combined cultures and played crucial roles in one another's lives, as the magical silk created by the Weavers was crucial to the nest, and the queen of the nest allowed the Weavers to care for her child, showing the deep trust between the two tribes. These bugs were very strict about the boundary they kept at the nest's edge, and they defended it with hostility against all tribes who encroached upon their boundaries. This is incredibly evident in the failed tramway we see deep into the nest. The bugs of the nest were violent in their efforts against the Pale King's expansion into Deepnest, and shut down, broke, and overran all of the modern infrastructure the Pale King tried to build. The bugs even went to the extreme of wiping out all of the servants who were building the tram system, and breaking all of the stuff they had already built. But like I said earlier, The bugs of the nest weren't too friendly to other tribes outside of the nest. They had quite a hard boundary with the Mantians and were rivals with them and had many battles between the two. And the mantises were tasked with stopping the spiders from pushing into the boundaries of Hallownest. When the bugs of the nest tried to breach the barrier of the mantis village, they were quickly and easily put down by all of the Mantians and their lords. Eventually, though, the Pale King was able to strike a bit of a deal with the nest and those who resided in it. He was able to get Herrah, the Queen of Deepnest, to end up being one of his dreamers to seal the vessel. This also allowed the Pale King to try and expand his empire more and push the Stagways into Deepnest. In the deal with the Pale King, Herrah got out of it what she needed: a child to perpetuate the Nest tribe and allow it to have another leader of high blood. Hornet would leave the nest later on, but it would stay strong against the infection for quite a while, as in Hollow Knight it only became recently infected and the bugs are still semi-sentient. Now, to try and address a few burning questions with some pretty bad mini-theories that I just made up and I have no evidence for. The distant villagers who forced the knights into the beast's den, in my opinion, are puppets controlled by some other being who animated them with the magical spider silk of the weavers. The weird seal of binding statue in the beast's den could possibly be the corpse of the former king of the nest, or a monument to him, and the seal could be there to prevent necrophages or something. And the beast's den doesn't have a guardian we can see because Zote the Mighty slayed this higher being with his legendary nail, Lifefender. To wrap up, the Nest was an aggressive, intelligent tribe who opposed the Pale King and ultimately fell to the infection. Could have saved so much effort by just saying that. Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video and learned something. I'm Ravenbane, and please consider subscribing so you can stay tuned for more future Hollow Knight content. Thanks, guys.